Hey, it's Flippin' MJ here. Welcome to the July 13th edition of Up to Date MMA. All right, jump right into the news here. Flip, we got Donald the Cowboy Cerrone versus Melvin Guillard. That was just announced for this an upcoming event here. How you see that one going down?
I think Cerrone's going to take it. I think his stand-up is way better than Guillard's.
Mm-hmm.
Guillard's got, heavy hands, but, I think that considering that these guys have trained together, they're both staples of Jackson's gym until, Guillard left to go to Black Zillions. But I just think Cerrone's a little more technical, and, I think he's going to take that fight.
Yeah, definitely be an interesting matchup. I mean, Melvin Guillard, he's looked a little tentative in his last couple of outings, particularly in this last one. I mean, obviously he wanted to get that win, so we'll see how it goes down. It could be a really, a good fight, though. Then we got Quinton Rampage Jackson coming in against Teixeira at UFC 153. Interesting matchup. How do you see that one going down?
It's pretty interesting. It just really depends on Rampage, if Rampage is going to bring it this time. It just seems like he's pretty much done. He just took whatever fight. It didn't really matter to him.
Yeah.
Teixeira, though, he has all the tools to beat Rampage and to beat some of the top guys. So, it really depends on if Rampage is even going to fight the fight or if he's just going to kind of let it fall off.
Yeah, definitely. If a game Rampage shows up, I mean, this is going to be a huge step up in competition for Glover. So we'll see how it goes down. I mean, people out on the internet, messing around about Rampage fighting Fedor and Bellator after this next fight. So we'll see how it goes down. Shane Carwin, Roy Nelson, going to be the Ultimate Fighter 16 coaches. WTF, if there ever was one. I mean, I like both these guys, but to me, Forrest Bonner, hands down. If I'm Dana White, I make that decision all day long.
Yeah, that's what it should have been. I mean, even if you're looking at the announcement of Pearson and Soteropoulos going to be doing, the Australia versus UK, those are 3 out of 4 fighters that are coming off of losses. I understand the appeal with Pearson, Soteropoulos. They're both tough vets. They lived in the house, they were on the show, so it's something that's a little more understandable. But and considering the international market, the Shane Carwin, Roy Nelson makes no sense to me. It should be Bonner and Griffin.
Yeah, especially a lot of times they bring the Ultimate Fighter coaches in, and typically it's a number one contender eliminator matchup. Once they do their coaching, they get in there, they fight. It's usually a title shot after that. So I don't know if they're going to give the title shot to Carwin, who's coming off a long layoff, or to Nelson. It could happen, I guess, but
yeah, it's possible. I don't see. I mean, I think everybody else is pretty much knocked off or tied up with matches right now. So
yeah,
and it has happened before where Carwin comes off of a layoff and he fights for a title or for an internship title.
Yeah, be interested to see how that goes down. All right, so any of you fans out there, if you missed any of the UFC Expo, if you weren't able to make it to Vegas, man, it was a great expo. Fight Life Media, we were out there with our boy Pono. Got a lot of great footage. Make sure and click the little button that's going to pop up here. You can get some footage on the expo. Check out some of the fan interviews, the fan interaction that we did. It's a good time. I mean, what were your thoughts on that, Flip?
Yeah, I liked it. The Q&As I thought were pretty cool. They had some pretty cool guests up there. Bruce Buffer did a Q&A. They had John Anik, just like the normal crew of guys that usually work for the UFC, along with some of the better fighters.
Yeah.
One of the things that was pretty cool that we were able to do was catch a show, actually. It was a martial arts expo that happened right before the Fan Expo, so there was a lot of people that were in town, not just for those couple of days for the UFC Fan Expo, but for the other thing, and so there was just fighters everywhere.
Yeah, and if you want to see some footage of Chael Sonnen practicing that spinning back fist that was his kind of doomed him to a failure of his last fight, you'll see a little button pop up here. Check out that video. It was really well attended, though. There were over 50 UFC fighters there. There were some good Strikeforce fighters there as well. It was a really cool experience. If you get a chance next time to check out the expo, go ahead and do that. UFC 148, finally I think Chael Sonnen showed a little bit of respect, after getting his ass handed to him. He came out and said, hey, I admire Anderson Silva. He's a true champion. I admire the Brazilian fans. The Brazilian fans are unlike American fans where they root for their own, and he says that doesn't happen a whole lot. Although sometimes you'll hear those chants of, USA, USA. But, by and large...
Yeah, I think the thing that he was saying that he really, admires in Anderson Silva is that he's able to come back from adversity. He had a really tough first round there, this time around, and then he came back in the second and, basically he took him out. So, in the first time, it was 5 rounds of just taking a beating, and then he just threw out the triangle. So I mean, that obviously means a lot, especially if you're looking at an athlete's perspective and the amount of the respect that he has for Anderson Silva.
Yeah. It was interesting, too, because, Chael said at the end of that first round, he felt, quote-unquote, Silva break. And what exactly it is that he felt or why he assumed that Anderson Silva had broken, it's kind of interesting because then going into that second round, obviously he had to have a lot of, confidence in himself to throw that ridiculous spinning elbow. And then he got caught with that knee. And, I will say this, though. Chael he's not complaining. He's not whining. I guess he's not going to pursue saying that was an illegal knee. Obviously, the point of the knee hit him dead in the chest. Probably a portion of that leg, apparently Chael said, did hit him in the face. Although, for anybody that has watched that over and over again, it doesn't look like it hit him with very much force.
It looks like it was a downward angle going straight into the sternum. So.
Yeah. Another, the fight of the night, you had Tito Ortiz in his farewell bout versus, Forrest Griffin. That was a really cool fight. It was interesting, too, because Forrest in the post-fight press conference said that in that third round, he felt Tito just getting tired, and he went to press the gas pedal, and he said nothing happened. So, which is interesting because, Flip and I and Pono, we've been filming at Throwdown over the last couple of months. We got a great interview with Norm Turner, who is Forrest's strength and conditioning coach. If you want to check that out, click the little link here. It's got some great footage. I mean, Forrest was in phenomenal shape. I got to just bet that, going into it, there was so much on the line for him that maybe some kind of adrenaline dump or I don't know.
It could have been. Plus, I mean, going into the third, it just really depends, like what was going through his head, how he was feeling. Fighters do that all the time. They go to turn it on and nothing just really, kicks into the next gear. So, but everybody knows that Forrest is always in great shape. He talked in the press conference about how if he wasn't fighting, he'd still be in the gym working out. He's one of those fighters that he works out to alleviate stress. He doesn't hate working out the way that other fighters do. They look at it as like, this is my job, this is why I'm in the gym. For him it's a lifestyle, and that's something that's really admirable. I mean, him running out of the cage, that's the only thing that ever really kind of gets to me. But for him to think that he lost that fight is kind of out there.
Yeah, it must just be one of those things. He was in the heat of the battle, and probably he was just fighting, and not scoring it, obviously. Right. So I think it was a pretty convincing win by Forrest. He looked good. His antics at the end there, he apologized for him, and they weren't too bad, but it was just a little crossing over the line, stealing some of Tito's limelight. It's going to be his last, post-fight interview, and it was a little weird, but it was okay. It was vintage Forrest Griffin. All right, so on to UFC on Fuel 4. Weidman, man. I got that pick wrong. He just demolished Mark Munoz in a way that just nobody else has. That was pretty impressive.
I didn't even see that coming at all. I mean, honestly, I thought that Munoz was, a whole other level, above him. I thought this was going to be his chance to get the title shot. Weidman would have to, basically take a lesson from it and then come back. But, that elbow, the timing with that elbow is just ridiculous. And then, of course, the beating that Munoz took right after that was a little hard to watch, I guess, coming from a referee background and seeing that. And, Rosenthal's an excellent referee, so I don't really know what happened in that situation. But
I guess supposedly he did come out and he apologized. He said, I was late. But, I mean, Rosenthal is also known for kind of giving guys a chance a little bit more than some refs.
Right.
And sometimes you get those right, sometimes you get them wrong. And I think in this case, he realized afterwards, Munoz probably took a good 4 or 5 shots that he probably shouldn't have.
Right.
So it's interesting. But Weidman now kind of calling out Silva. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I don't doubt Weidman's skill set, and I don't doubt that he could potentially brutalize Anderson Silva because, the way that Weidman looked on the ground, he looked like Chael Sonnen times 2. You know what I mean? His punches had more power. His transitions were better. He just looked, his ground game and submission game, just his setups and everything that he was digging for on Munoz was just at a different level than even Chael Sonnen. So I don't think there's any way that the UFC lets that happen, though, because if Lombard can get past Boch, that's a big money fight.
Yeah, it is. It just really depends on I think, fans. ultimately, you know, a lot of this stuff, you know, these decisions wind up boiling down to the fans. So, you know, fans, if you want to see Weidman, make sure you're on Dana White's Twitter and letting him know. You know, if you want to see Lombard, you just let him know. I mean, it's two pretty good matchups. A lot of people have been waiting for Hector Lombard to come over. And, you know, it's he's somebody that could move up really quickly. But the thing is, with the momentum that Weidman has in the last couple of fights, it's kind of hard to see him not fighting for that. But I think somebody did mention that Alan Belcher could be a potential matchup for him. So you know, I think that would be a pretty good one. Test him against a really good striker and a really good jiu-jitsu guy, and then, you know, if he can get past Belcher, who's just tough, you know, then he can probably get that shot. Yeah,
be interesting. All right, before we go into the amateur stuff, of course, the cherry on top, so to speak, Ronda Rousey on ESPN magazine, the body issue. Pretty interesting, huh? What do you think about that, Flip?
They got to see the rings from the Olympics tattooed on her.
Yeah. I think she made me blush. I don't know. Always, for additional coverage and exclusive content, make sure and check us out at fightlifemedia.com, where we're covering MMA from the ground up.